Here to react, the vice chair of the Senate Intel Committee, GOP Senator Marco Rubio, has got extremely respect on both sides of the aisle when it comes to foreign policy. If it is true, Senator, that he tipped off the Iranians to 200 attacks from the Israelis in Syria, what does that mean?
Well, that would be a major foreign policy catastrophe for the country if it were revealed to be true. If he was having, and it's not clear when exactly he told them about it. Was it after he was Secretary of State? Was it during the negotiations? But I'll say this, what happens with a lot of these guys is they fall in love with these deals, right? The deal becomes more important than the impact the deal's going to have. Just having that deal because they believe so much in it that you're willing to do things you wouldn't do under normal circumstances. That happens all the time in life. It happens all the time in politics, unfortunately. But when it happens in something like this that involves national security, it could be very dangerous. So, look, I think this is something that needs to be looked at. And the most important thing as well is, he's now part of this administration. He's got to stick to the climate stuff. He really should. We got to be very careful that we don't have some guy now sticking his nose into any of the work happening with Iran, even though I'm not sure that the people working on Iran now would be much better. But you would hope at the minimum they wouldn't be betraying allies.
Senator, I can't help but think that President Obama had to know about this. He had frosty relationship with President Benjamin Netanyahu. We know that they've never probably been worse between Israel and the U.S. when he was in power. And then for the Secretary of State to work out a cash payment for a deal that nobody wanted, including Senator Schumer and Senator Cardin, do you think that he could be cowboying it and just doing his own thing if this is in fact true?
Well, I don't think he could sign a deal to be part of a deal that provided the cash. I mean, the details of the deal, I don't think he could do on his own. I think it's possible. You want to do a deal with somebody on the other side, so you want to give them something of value that isn't on paper, and that's where something like giving them insight into what our allies in Israel are doing would add to that. That may not have been disclosed per se,
right?
Although it's hard to imagine how he would have done that with other people around him not being aware. So I can't say the administration would definitely have known about that, but they most certainly knew about all the other things that were in the deal, including the side deals that were never sort of revealed publicly.
Yeah, he denies it, but as previously reported, he denied meeting with Zarif during the Trump administration. But guess what? There's pictures of those two talking, and Fox has reported 2 other times he talked to Iran. Reportedly said, hold on, number 1, he'll be impeached, so he's going to be out soon, and number 2, he's not going to get reelected. So if you could just hold on, we'll get right back into that deal, which is treasonous in my book, and the President Trump always thought that. Meanwhile, tomorrow night, it's exciting. President Biden, for the first time, will address a joint session of Congress without the joint session of Congress being there, because we want to pretend the vaccine doesn't work, even though you all been vaccinated, and you can't sit in the chambers. What are you expecting him to say?
Well, I imagine it's going to say more of what he's been saying now, and he'll preview like what he wants to push forward in the future. Going back to your point, I will not be attending, and one of the reasons why is the ticket numbers have been really limited. They're making people sit in the gallery. It's interesting when it came to coming together to impeach Donald Trump for the second time after he was out of office. They put 100 senators in the same room, sitting just inches apart for hours at a time over 5 or 6 days. Apparently, COVID was not an issue then. But now, of course, for something like this, well, we can't have that many people in a room sitting next to each other. So it's a kind of silly season here. But that's all right. It'll be on TV. I'm sure I'll watch it, and I'll watch highlights. But I don't anticipate any major new announcement. I think he's already previewed a lot of the things they're going to talk about, including what they plan to do with infrastructure, what he plans to do with his budget, and some of the other things they're pushing on.
He wants another $1 trillion for a family plan. Fantastic. You wrote an op-ed that caught a lot of attention. The New York Times wrote a counter to you and a challenge to you today. But here's what you put in the New York Post, a better newspaper. Corporations that undermine American values do not deserve GOP support. They are leaving you guys at the altar, but you're still raising money. Is this where the rubber hits the road with corporate America and Republicans?
No, our job is to do what's good for the United States of America and American people. Okay, that's my job. Now, to the extent that some policy, be it tax or regulatory, creates jobs for America, creates an industrial capacity for the country, is good for America, those are the kinds of things that we should be incentivizing and rewarding. But to the extent that something's not good for America, we should not be rewarding it. So we should not have a tax code, for example, that rewards taking jobs out of this country and sending them to another place. We should not have tax policies that reward companies who turn over American industrial capacity and innovation to China or some other place. So it's not about punishing corporate America. Look, they have a right to speak freely and say whatever they want to say. What we shouldn't pretend, however, is that they somehow have the best interest of the United States in mind. They consider themselves citizens of the world. They are responsible to their shareholders, but we in public policy, and Republicans included in this, by the way, our number one constituency is not some multinational corporation. It's the men and women of this country. It's the jobs they're losing that we should be caring about. It's the national security of this country that we should be caring about.
So there's Democratic proposals, real quick, I know your time is short, that took you to challenge. They said, if this is true and you take it on corporate America, why don't you support Joe Biden when he says raise the corporate tax rate? Why don't you support Ron Wyden, when the senator, the Democratic senator, when he says if people are making money overseas, tax them more to bring that money back?
Yeah, because this is not about punishing corporations. They have a right to make any decision they want. What I'm talking about is we should have a tax code that treats everybody fairly, but incentivizes actions by corporate America that are good for Americans. So if you're going to invest money in this country, if you're going to bring jobs here, if you're going to open a factory here, if you're going to do a business activity here that's good for Americans and American workers, the tax code will incentivize and reward that. If you're not, you're going to be treated like everybody else. They're more about punishing. That's the difference. They want to punish corporations because, frankly, many of them have they don't really truly are committed or believe in capitalism. I believe in free enterprise and capitalism, but I believe that our laws and our incentives should be built for the common good, should be built for to incentivize what is good for America and good for Americans.
I just think overall what's good for the country is that the Republicans didn't get any corporate support this last quarter, but hit record numbers in terms of small donations. It frees you up even more than ever to act in the best interest of the nation. Senator, thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.